The November wind cut through my coat as I stepped off the city bus, clutching my purse against my side. My heels clicked on the familiar driveway of my childhood home, and I could already see the expensive cars lined up like trophies. Derek's new Tesla Nathan's, Mercedes Ashley's Range Rover. I smiled to myself, adjusting the sleeve of my designer dress that none of them would recognize. Oh, still taking the bus? The mocking voice hit me before I even reached the front door. My cousin Derek stood there, his smirk as predictable as his perfectly styled hair. 32 years old and riding public transportation. Classic Serena. The laughter from inside told me others had heard. I kept my smile steady, walking past him into the warm house filled with the smell of turkey and judgment. My family gathered in the living room, their eyes scanning me with that familiar mixture of pity and superiority. Then my father froze. His gaze locked onto my wrist color draining from his face. "That watch," he whispered, his voice catching. "So, this old thing," I said casually, pulling my sleeve down, but the damage was done. Robert Morrison, former luxury goods dealer, knew exactly what he was looking at. The silence that followed was worth more than the $2 million wrapped around my wrist. I escaped to the kitchen where my mother Martha stood guard over her empire of casserole dishes and critical observations. The familiar dance began immediately as I washed my hands, preparing to help with dinner preparations, despite knowing nothing I did would meet her standards. "Serena, honey, you really should have called to say you'd be late. Although I suppose the bus schedule isn't very reliable, is it?" She didn't look up from the green beans she was stirring. Derek was just telling us about his newest investment property, 3 rental units in downtown Seattle. Can you imagine? I reached for the potato peeler, noticing how her words came faster than usual. "That's wonderful for Derek." And Ashley performed a groundbreaking surgery last month. Separated conjoined twins. She's being featured in Medical Excellence Quarterly. The wooden spoon in her hand moved with increasing aggression. "Your brother Nathan just landed a massive client, some pharmaceutical company worth billions." I focused on the potatoes, creating long, even strips of skin. "Everyone's doing well then." "Yes, everyone's progressing." The pause before that last word carried 20 years of disappointment. "Are you still working at that community center, teaching those art classes?" "I enjoy working with the kids." I kept my voice neutral, watching her reflection in the kitchen window. That's when I saw it. Her hand shook as she reached for her glass of wine, and behind the flour canister, I glimpsed the distinctive orange of prescription bottles. Multiple bottles. "Enjoyment doesn't pay bills, Serena." But her voice lacked its usual sharp edge. She grabbed a dish towel, and I noticed her knuckles were white. "Your father says—" "Well, never mind what your father says." I studied her more carefully now. The designer apron couldn't hide the fact that her dress was last season. Her wedding ring was missing, replaced by a simple band. The kitchen, usually sporting the latest gadgets, looked exactly as it had 5 years ago. Mom, is everything all right?" She spun around so fast that wine sloshed from her glass. "Of course, everything's all right. Why wouldn't it be? We're successful people, Serena. Successful families don't have problems they can't solve." The bottles behind the flour moved when she grabbed a baking dish. Xanax, Ambien, names I recognized from my research into stress-related prescriptions. My successful family, it seemed, was medicating their way through something significant. "Now go call everyone for dinner and try to contribute to the conversation tonight. It's embarrassing when you just sit there while everyone discusses their achievements." I set down the peeler, studying my mother's rigid posture. The Martha Morrison I grew up with never showed cracks in her armor, but tonight, the armor was definitely cracked. Walking toward the dining room, I touched the watch beneath my sleeve. My family thought they knew everything about success and failure. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. The dining room buzzed with conversation that stopped the moment I entered. 8 pairs of eyes tracked my movement to the only empty chair positioned between my grandmother, Evelyn, and my Uncle Paul's empty seat. The strategic placement wasn't lost on me. Even the seating arrangement reinforced my position as the family outlier. Derek wasted no time. So, Serena still living in that charming studio apartment above the Korean restaurant. He carved his turkey with surgical precision, his tone dripping condescension. I remember visiting once. The smell of kimchi was authentic. I like my neighborhood. I accepted the mashed potatoes from my grandmother, who squeezed my hand gently. Neighborhood, that's generous. Ashley laughed, her new veneers gleaming. It's more like a block of struggling immigrants and starving artists. Although I suppose that's your demographic these days. Nathan joined in, adjusting his gold cufflinks. I offered to show her some investment properties last year. Remember, Serena, but you said you weren't interested in building wealth through real estate. She can't invest what she doesn't have. Derek interrupted, his voice carrying that particular brand of cruelty masquerading as concern. Community center salaries aren't exactly designed for portfolio building. What do they pay you anyway? 40,000, 45. My phone vibrated against my leg, a gentle pulse indicating a priority message. I ignored it, focusing on cutting my turkey into precise squares. You know there's no shame in struggling. Ashley's voice took on a false sweetness. Not everyone can maximize their potential. Someone needs to teach finger painting to preschoolers. It's just sad, really. Derek leaned back in his chair. Yale education, all those opportunities, and you're basically a glorified babysitter. My phone buzzed again. Then again, the triple pulse pattern I'd programmed for urgent communications. Maybe if you'd studied something practical instead of art history and social work. Nathan trailed off, shaking his head with exaggerated sympathy. The phone continued its insistent vibration. Derek noticed his eyes lighting up with new ammunition. Can't even afford a proper phone plan. Getting collections calls during Thanksgiving dinner. Before I could stop him, his hand shot across the table, snatching my phone from beside my plate. Let me guess, final notice from your landlord. Or maybe it's your boss at the community center calling to say they're cutting your hours again. He glanced at the screen, ready to announce my latest failure to the assembled family. But his mouth fell open instead. No sound emerged. His face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something that looked remarkably like fear. "What is it?" Ashley demanded. "Is she being evicted?" Derek's hand trembled as he held my phone. His voice came out strangled. It's from Hamilton Ashworth and Associates, the private banking division." "So," Nathan scoffed. "Probably spam." "The message—" Derek cleared his throat, reading in a monotone. "Confirming completion of the Meridian Technologies acquisition. $43.7 million has been transferred to your primary account. Please contact us to discuss tax optimization strategies for this quarter's distributions." The silence that followed was absolute. Forks suspended midway to mouths. Wine glasses frozen in mid-sip. Even my grandmother stopped chewing, though her eyes twinkled with something that might have been satisfaction. Ashley found her voice first. "That's obviously a scam. Those phishing attempts are getting sophisticated." But Derek was scrolling now, his face growing paler with each swipe. "There are dozens of messages, board meeting reminders, patent approval confirmations, investment updates." He looked up at me, his earlier arrogance replaced by naked shock. "Serena, what the hell is this?" I reached across the table, plucking my phone from his slack fingers. "You seemed very interested in my financial situation. I thought you'd appreciate some transparency." "This can't be real," Nathan insisted, but uncertainty colored his voice. I smiled, tucking the phone back beside my plate. "Weren't we discussing my $40,000 salary? Please don't let me interrupt. I believe Ashley was explaining how I've wasted my Yale education." But no one seemed interested in continuing that particular conversation anymore. The silence stretched until it became physically uncomfortable. Forks clinked against plates as everyone pretended to eat, but their eyes kept darting between my phone and my face. My father hadn't touched his food. His gaze remained fixed on my wrist with an intensity that made everyone else notice. "Robert, what's wrong?" My mother's voice carried an edge of panic. "You look ill." He didn't respond. Instead, he stood slowly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Walking around the table, he stopped beside me, his breathing audible in the quiet room. "Serena," his voice was hoarse, "your watch. May I see it?" I glanced up at him, noting the sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool dining room. "It's just a watch, Dad." "Please." The word came out cracked, desperate. Derek, recovering some of his earlier bravado, laughed nervously. "Oh, this should be good. What's she wearing, a Rolex knockoff from Canal Street? I bet she bought it to impress us." I extended my wrist toward my father. The watch caught the chandelier light, its complex face revealing multiple complications, the celestial display glowing softly. My father's hands shook as he gently turned my wrist, examining the timepiece with the reverence of someone handling a religious artifact. "No," he whispered, "it can't be." "Can't be what?" Ashley demanded. "It's obviously fake. Serena shops at thrift stores." My father's head snapped toward Ashley with such violence that she flinched. "Fake, fake." His voice rose to a level I'd never heard before. "Do you have any idea what you're looking at? Any idea at all?" "Robert," my mother stood alarmed by his outburst. But he wasn't finished. His finger pointed at my wrist, trembling with emotion. "That's a Patek Philippe Sky Moon Tourbillon, reference 6002G. They only made 12. 12 in the entire world." Derek's laughter died. "That's impossible." The celestial chart, the minute repeater, the perpetual calendar. My father listed each feature like a prayer. Grand complications that took master craftsmen 4 years to assemble. The white gold case alone. "Oh God, Serena, this is worth $2.3 million at last auction." I finished calmly. "Though the market's been climbing, the last private sale was closer to 2.5. Nathan's wine glass slipped from his hand, shattering against his plate. Red wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood. "You're lying," Ashley's voice pitched high. "This is some elaborate prank. You probably rented it for tonight." My father's laugh was hollow. "You can't rent a Sky Moon Tourbillon. The owners, they don't let them out of their sight. Insurance alone would be..." He stopped staring at me with new eyes. "Serena, how?" Before I could answer, he grabbed my arm, not roughly, but with desperation that made everyone at the table tense. "I need to speak with you. Privately, now." "Robert, what are you doing?" My mother's voice approached shrill. "We're in the middle of dinner." He turned on her with an expression I'd never seen before. Raw fear mixed with desperate hope. "Martha, please. I have to..." His grip on my arm tightened. Leaning close, he whispered, so only I could hear, "Serena, I'm in trouble. Real trouble. The kind that... Please. I know I have no right to ask, but I need help. The family business, it's gone. All of it. And I owe people. Dangerous people. If you really have what that watch suggests you have, I'm begging you. As your father. Please." I looked into his eyes, seeing past the successful businessman facade to the terrified man beneath. Around us, the family waited, confusion and disbelief warring on their faces. My mother clutched her wine glass like a lifeline. Derek opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. Ashley seemed to be calculating, trying to make the math work in a universe where her failure sister owned a $2 million timepiece. "After dinner?" I said softly. "We'll talk after dinner." He nodded frantically, releasing my arm and stumbling back to his seat. As conversations resumed in fractured, uncertain bursts, I caught my grandmother Evelyn watching me. She raised her water glass, slightly, a subtle toast that no one else noticed. Her smile told me she wasn't surprised at all. The power dynamics at the table had shifted, and everyone could feel it. The black sheep they'd been so eager to mock suddenly looked a lot more like a wolf. And wolves, as my family was beginning to understand, played by entirely different rules. The interrogation began before the dinner plates were cleared. My family abandoned all pretense of politeness, their questions coming rapid fire like bullets from a firing squad. Start from the beginning. Nathan commanded, his investment banker persona taking over. And don't leave anything out. I folded my napkin with deliberate precision, taking my time. The silence grew uncomfortable, but I'd learned long ago that controlling the pace of information was its own form of power. 5 years ago, I developed a water purification system using graphene oxide filters. I began my voice conversational. It could clean industrial wastewater at a fraction of the current cost while removing 99.9% of contaminants. That's impossible, Ashley interrupted. I read medical journals. Technology like that would have made headlines. Only if I'd published, I replied. Instead, I filed patents, quietly, through shell companies. The first licensing deal was with a textile manufacturer in Bangladesh. They were facing closure due to environmental violations. My system saved their business. Derek's skepticism painted his features. And you expect us to believe you just invented this miraculous technology while teaching finger painting? The community center has a lab. Did you know that? Probably not, since none of you ever visited. It's small but sufficient. The kids I teach, several, are chemistry prodigies from immigrant families. They helped with testing in exchange for college recommendation letters. My phone rang. The display showed a name that made Nathan gasp: Patricia Chen, CEO of Meridian Industries. Do you mind if I take this? I asked, already swiping to answer. Patricia, happy Thanksgiving. Yes, I saw the transfer confirmation. No, 43 million is correct. The European expansion can wait until Monday. My family watched transfixed as I discussed figures that dwarfed their combined net worth. When Patricia started speaking Mandarin, I responded fluently, negotiating terms for the Asian market that would have made Nathan's biggest deals look like pocket change. Sorry, I said, switching back to English. Patricia, I'm with family. We'll handle the Singapore facility after the holiday. Yes, the patent protection is ironclad. Give my best to your wife. I ended the call to absolute silence. You speak Mandarin, Martha whispered. Mandarin, Spanish, Hindi, and Arabic. Turns out community centers attract international volunteers. I had excellent teachers. I smiled at their stunned faces. The water purification system was just the beginning. I hold 17 patents now. Sustainable packaging that biodegrades in seawater. A carbon capture method that's 60% more efficient than current technology. Solar panel coating that increases efficiency by 40%. This is insane. Derek stood pacing. If this were true, you'd be on magazine covers. You'd be famous. Would I pulled out my phone, navigating to a folder labeled Press. Forbes wanted a profile. I declined. Time magazine offered a cover story. I passed. TechCrunch has been begging for an interview for 3 years. Fame was never the goal. Then what was? Ashley demanded. Impact. Real change. The companies licensing my technologies have prevented approximately 4 million tons of plastic from entering the ocean. They've provided clean water to 600,000 people. They've reduced carbon emissions equivalent to removing 2 million cars from the road. Robert found his voice. The money is a byproduct. Useful, but not the purpose. Though it does add up. The licensing fees alone generate about 12 million annually. The equity stakes in companies using my technologies are worth considerably more. How much? Nathan's voice was strangled. I considered the question. At last, valuation, including real estate holdings, patent values, and liquid assets, approximately 480 million. Martha's wineglass shattered on the floor. But you ride the bus, Derek protested desperately. I like the bus. I meet interesting people. Last month, I met a homeless veteran who developed a fascinating theory about urban wind patterns. We're now partners in a micro turbine project for city buildings. My phone buzzed again, this time a video call request from someone whose name made even Ashley gasp. Richard Branson. Should I let this go to voicemail? I asked innocently. But I was already accepting the call, angling the screen so everyone could see the billionaire's familiar face. See, Serena. Sorry to interrupt your holiday, but the sustainable aviation fuel numbers are extraordinary. We need to accelerate the rollout. Can you be in London next week? After Thanksgiving, Richard. Family time is sacred. He laughed that famous infectious sound. Of course! Give my regards to everyone. We'll change the world on Monday. The call ended. I set my phone face down, finally allowing myself to truly look at my family. Their worldview had shattered like my mother's wineglass, and they were struggling to piece together a reality where their failure sister was worth nearly $500 million. Any other questions? I asked sweetly. Or should we move on to dessert? Ashley recovered first her surgeon's ability to compartmentalize kicking in. She stood pointing an accusatory finger at me. You let us mock you for years. You sat there at every family gathering while we... Her voice cracked. Why did I let you reveal your true characters? I met her gaze steadily. Why did I allow you to show me exactly who you are when you think someone has less than you? That's an interesting question, Ashley. Don't turn this around, she snapped. You lied to us. I never lied. Not once. You assumed. You saw someone who chose a modest lifestyle and immediately equated that with failure. The assumptions were all yours. Nathan slammed his hand on the table. This is manipulation. Pure and simple. You've been playing some sick game. Gimme. I stood slowly. Let's talk about games, Nathan, like the game you've been playing with your clients' portfolios. Those risky derivatives you've been pushing, the ones you swore to Dad were conservative investments. His face went white. How do you... Or Ashley's game, performing unnecessary surgeries to pay for her lifestyle, 3 malpractice suits in 2 years, isn't it? All settled quietly, of course. Ashley stumbled backward. That's confidential information. You can't possibly know. And Derek. I turned to my cousin. Your successful startup that just closed Series B funding, except there was no Series B was there. You've been using new investor money to pay off old investors. Classic Ponzi scheme. Shut up, Derek hissed. You don't know what you're talking about. But the real secrets... I continued, my voice calm despite the chaos erupting around me, are bigger than individual failures. Should we discuss why Mom's been refilling her anxiety medication 3 times a month? Or why Dad hasn't worn his Rolex in 6 months? Robert's face crumbled. Serena, please? The Morrison family empire is broke. I said it simply without emotion. Has been for almost a year. The house is mortgaged 3 times. The vacation home in Aspen sold quietly last spring. Mom's jewelry replaced with replicas. Martha sank into her chair. How could you possibly know? Because I've been buying your debts. The words fell into the room like stones into still water. Every mortgage payment you've missed. Every loan Derek defaulted on. Every settlement Ashley needed to pay. I've been purchasing them through holding companies. You've been what... Nathan's voice rose to a shout. I pulled out my phone, navigating to a secure folder. Morrison Holdings, LLC. Sunset Ventures. Cascade Investment Group. All mine. I own approximately 78% of your collective debt. Why Robert's question came out broken. Because sharks were circling, the kind of lenders who break legs first and ask questions later. The kind Derek borrowed from when banks stopped returning his calls. I couldn't let that happen, so I became your creditor instead. You've been spying on us, Ashley accused. Protecting you, I corrected. Though you made it remarkably difficult. Do you know how many financial institutions I had to negotiate with? How many threatening letters I intercepted, Nathan? That cocaine habit of yours nearly got you disbarred. I had to pay off 3 people to keep that quiet. Nathan's legs gave out. He collapsed into his chair. The partners said the complaint was withdrawn because I paid the complainant $50,000 and got them to sign an NDA. Well, this is sick, Derek spat. You've been controlling us like puppets. Controlling? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've been your invisible safety net, the anonymous angel who kept you from facing consequences of your greed and arrogance. And you want to talk about control? We didn't ask for your help, Ashley screamed. No, you asked Mom and Dad. And when they couldn't help anymore, when they depleted everything trying to save your careers and reputations, they started borrowing from dangerous people. So no, you didn't ask for my help. But you needed it. Evelyn, who'd been silent throughout the chaos, finally spoke. Show them the trust documents, dear. All eyes turned to my grandmother. You knew, Martha gasped. Evelyn smiled serenely. Of course I knew. Who do you think taught her to pay attention, to watch how people treat those they perceive as lesser? Serena learned the most valuable lesson of all: wealth means nothing if you surround yourself with people who only value your bank account. I opened another secure document on my phone, casting it to the smart TV on the wall. Legal papers filled the screen. The Morrison Family Recovery Trust, worth $100 million. This has existed for 8 months, I explained. Waiting. All I needed was to see genuine change, real acknowledgement of your failures, authentic humility. Instead, I got tonight mockery, cruelty, the same old patterns. So what now? Robert asked quietly. You own our debts. You hold our futures. What's your plan, Serena? I looked around the table at my broken, angry, terrified family. The successful Morrisons, brought low by their own hubris, saved by the one they dismissed. Now, I said, we have some honest conversations, starting with why you thought success could only look one way and why that way was worth destroying yourselves to achieve. The dining room felt smaller, suddenly cramped with the weight of exposed truths and shattered pretenses. But for the first time in years, we were all finally seeing each other clearly. The family scattered after my revelations, each nursing their wounds in different corners of the house. I found solitude on the back porch, watching storm clouds gather over the neighborhood, where I'd learned the distance between appearance and truth. The November air bit through my dress, but the cold felt clean after the suffocating tension inside. Footsteps on the deck made me turn. Derek approached with none of his earlier swagger, his shoulders hunched forward, hands shoved deep in his pockets. The golden boy entrepreneur looked more like a scared child. Can we talk? His voice lacked its usual command. Please. I gestured to the chair beside me. He sat maintaining distance as if poverty might be contagious in reverse. I need your help. The words tumbled out quickly. My company. It's worse than you said. I've got investors threatening lawsuits. Some of them aren't the lawsuit type, if you understand what I mean. I understand perfectly. I kept my voice neutral. How much? 8 million, maybe 9 with interest. He rubbed his face with both hands. I had a product, revolutionary shopping algorithm, but development took longer than expected, and I had to keep showing growth, So you lied. Enhanced the projections. He corrected automatically, then caught himself. Yeah, I lied. Doctored user numbers, faked revenue reports, classic Silicon Valley fake it till you make it, except I never made it. Show me your business plan. Hope flickered across his features. Really, you'll consider investing? Show me the real plan, not the fiction you've been peddling. He pulled out his phone with eager fingers, then hesitated. The thing is, there isn't really a plan anymore, just debt and angry people who want their money back. No product at all. There's code, fragments, My lead developer quit when I couldn't pay him. The rest of the team followed. I've been running on fumes and promises for 6 months. I studied him. The cousin who tormented me about taking the bus reduced to begging. What do you think happens now, Derek? I was hoping, your family, maybe you could invest. Or loan me enough to satisfy the dangerous creditors. I'll pay you back with interest. 50%, 100%, whatever you want. What I want is honesty. When's the last time you wrote actual code on dirty? His silence stretched uncomfortably long. 2 years ago, maybe 3, I became the face of the company, networking, pitching, playing CEO, while contributing nothing of actual value. That's not, he deflated. Yes. I reached into my bag, pulling out a folder I'd been carrying for 3 weeks. Open it. His trembling fingers revealed legal documents, share transfer agreements, board resolutions. His eyes widened as he read. This says you own 51% of Technova Solutions. His voice barely qualified as a whisper. My company. Former company. I started buying shares 3 months ago when your investors began panic selling. They were happy to unload their stakes for 20 cents on the dollar. You've been stalking me, planning this. I've been preventing you from getting your legs broken by Ukrainian mobsters. There's a difference. He flipped through more pages, comprehension dawning. These development timelines, hiring projections, this is a real business plan. Created by adults who understand technology and business. Your algorithm concept has merit. Poorly executed but salvageable. Under new management, Technova could be profitable within 18 months. Under your management. Under competent management. I've hired a CEO who actually knows how to code. Your former lead developer is returning with a 30% raise. The team's being rebuilt with people who value substance over style. Derek's face cycled through emotions, humiliation, anger, relief. So what happens to me? That depends. You can accept a junior position, learn actual skills, and earn your way back up. Or you can walk away with nothing but the knowledge that your creditors won't be visiting you with baseball bats. Junior position, I founded that company. You founded a house of cards. I'm offering you a chance to help build something real. He stood abruptly pacing the deck. This is humiliating. You're destroying everything I built. Everything you built was already destroyed. I'm offering resurrection with conditions. Which are full transparency. No more lies, inflated projections, or fake metrics. You report to the new CEO. You take coding classes. You earn your salary through actual contribution, not charm and connections. And if I refuse? I shrugged. Then you're free to handle your investors yourself. I'm sure they'll be understanding about the fraud. The Ukrainian gentleman you borrowed from seemed particularly forgiving when I met with them last month. His bravado crumbled entirely. You met with them. Who do you think convinced them to accept my buyout of your debt? They wanted to make an example of you. Something about sending a message to other tech bros who thought they could play with real money. Derek sank back into the chair. Why would you save me after everything I've said and done? Because you're family. Flawed, arrogant, cruel family, but family nonetheless. And because I believe people can change. The question is, do you? He stared at the legal papers, his future reduced to black and white terms. The golden boy who'd mocked my bus rides now faced a choice between humiliation and destruction. Junior position, he repeated quietly. Working for my own company. Working for a company that might actually succeed, with health insurance, stable salary, and the novel experience of building something honest. Thunder rumbled overhead. The storm was coming, but Derek seemed oblivious to everything except the papers in his hands. I'll take it, he whispered finally. I'll take whatever you're offering. Good. Orientation is Monday. Don't be late. And Derek. I waited until he met my eyes. You'll be taking the bus. The company's implementing carbon-neutral transportation policies. For the first time since I'd known him, my cousin laughed without malice. The bus, of course. He gathered the papers carefully. Serena, thank you. I don't deserve this. No, I agreed. You don't. But deserving and needing are different things. Maybe you'll learn to deserve it. He walked back toward the house, then paused at the door. That watch. You bought it to make a point tonight, didn't you? I smiled. Actually, I bought it 3 years ago to remind myself that true value isn't always visible on the surface. Sometimes the most expensive things look ordinary, and sometimes ordinary-looking things are worth millions. Derek nodded slowly, understanding dawning. I've been an idiot. Yes, I said simply, but that's not a permanent condition, unless you choose to make it one. He disappeared inside, leaving me alone with the approaching storm. 1 down, 3 to go. My family's education in humility had only just begun. 20 minutes later, Martha found me in my childhood bedroom. I sat on the narrow twin bed, surrounded by remnants of the daughter she'd never understood. Academic achievement awards gathering dust. Art pieces she'd tolerated but never appreciated. Photos of community center kids she'd never asked about. She knocked hesitantly, a courtesy she'd abandoned when I was 12. May I come in? I gestured to the desk chair. She perched on its edge, looking uncomfortable in the space she'd decorated, but never truly inhabited with me. I'm angry, she began, clutching her wineglass like armor. Furious, actually. How dare you let us struggle while you had millions watching your father age 10 years in 10 months? Seeing Ashley's marriage crumble under financial pressure, observing Nathan turn to substances to cope. And you, I asked quietly, what did you turn to? Her knuckles whitened around the glass stem. That's not relevant. 3 prescriptions behind the flower canister suggests otherwise. The wineglass trembled. You had no right to look. Xanax, Ambien, Ativan. Quite the cocktail, Mom. When did the anxiety start? When your father... She stopped trying to maintain composure. A year ago, maybe longer, he started acting strange. Secret phone calls, hidden credit card statements. I thought he was having an affair. But it was worse. The facade finally cracked. Gambling, sports betting at first, then poker games, then... I don't even know what then. He liquidated his retirement account, borrowed against his life insurance, mortgaged everything. Why didn't you tell anyone? Tell them what that Robert Morrison, successful businessman pillar of the community, was throwing away 40 years of building wealth on football games and poker chips. She laughed bitterly. The shame would have killed him, would have killed me. So you medicated yourself into numbness instead. Don't judge me. The wineglass slammed onto my desk. You don't understand the pressure, keeping up appearances, making sure the neighbors didn't notice the Porsche was gone, pretending Martha Morrison still lunches at the club when I can't afford a sandwich. I understand more than you think. Do you? She stood pacing the small room. You chose your simple life. We were forced into poverty. There's a difference. Tell me about the house. She froze. What about it? 3rd mortgage, 4th loan. How long before foreclosure? Martha's legs gave out. She collapsed into the chair, suddenly looking every one of her 68 years. 90 days, maybe less. The bank's been patient, but tears finally came, ruining her carefully applied makeup. I can't lose that house, Serena. 35 years of memories, your first steps in the kitchen, Nathan's piano recitals in the living room, every Christmas, every birthday. I opened my laptop, typing quickly, the screen filled with financial documents. What are you doing? She peered over my shoulder, then gasped. Those are our mortgage papers. We're past tense. I showed her the satisfaction of loan documents, paid in full 6 weeks ago. But the bank said we had 90 days. Because I asked them to maintain the illusion. I wanted to see if you'd ask for help, if you'd swallow your pride and admit you needed your failure daughter. You've been paying our mortgage. Her voice broke completely. For how long? 2 years through a trust, anonymous payments to keep you from knowing. 2 years! She grabbed my hands, tears flowing freely now. But that's when, oh God, Serena, that's when you knew. That's when I hired someone to investigate why Dad kept calling me at odd hours, then hanging up without speaking. Financial forensics revealed the whole picture. Gambling debts, desperate borrowing, the beginning of the end. Why didn't you confront us? Would you have accepted help from your disappointment daughter, the one whose life choices you mocked at every opportunity? She flinched. We weren't mocking. We were concerned. You were ashamed of my small apartment, my bus rides, my community center job, my inability to display wealth you deemed necessary for a Morrison. That's not, I mean, she crumbled. Yes, God help me, yes, I was ashamed. My friends' children were all successful, visible success, cars and houses and titles. You had none of that. I had purpose, joy, impact, but those aren't visible at garden parties. Martha studied me with new eyes. The children you teach, tell me about them. The unexpected question made me pause. Why? Because I realize I've never asked. 10 years of you working there, and I've never once asked about the children who matter to you. So I told her about Maria, who'd escaped gang violence in El Salvador and now headed to MIT. About James, whose artistic genius emerged despite severe dyslexia. About Keisha, who'd lived in her car while maintaining straight A's and now worked at NASA. Martha listened without interrupting, occasionally wiping away tears. When I finished, she sat quietly before speaking. I've been a terrible mother. No, you've been a mother who confused net worth with self-worth. They're not the same thing. Your father's gambling is an addiction, like your pills, like Nathan's cocaine, like Ashley's need for admiration, like Derek's compulsive lying. Everyone in this family is addicted to something that helps them avoid reality. What's your addiction? She asked softly. Believing I could save you all without being asked, without being seen. Classic codependency disguised as nobility. She reached for my hands again. The pills. I want to stop, but I'm scared. Without them, the anxiety, it's overwhelming. There's a treatment center in Malibu. Discreet. Excellent. I've already made inquiries. You planned this. I hoped. There's a difference. Martha stood slowly looking around my childhood room with fresh perspective. This room, I decorated it for the daughter I wanted. Pink and frilly and conventional, but you were never that girl, were you? No, but I learned to play her when needed. Just like you learned to play the perfect wife and mother. Until the pills. Until the bills. Poverty has a way of stripping away performances. She moved to the door, then turned back. The trust you mentioned, the family trust. Were you serious? $100 million. Waiting. But trust requires honesty, healing, hard work, things this family has avoided for decades. And if we can't change, I met her gaze steadily, then you'll have what you've always claimed was most important, each other, without the money to distract from whether that's actually true. She nodded slowly. The treatment center. How soon? There's an opening next week, after Thanksgiving. Your father won't like me being gone during the holidays. Dad has bigger problems than your absence, but that's his story to tell. Martha straightened her shoulders. For a moment, I saw the woman she might have been without the pressure of pretense. Thank you for the house, for the truth, for the chance. Everyone deserves a chance to choose differently. She left quietly, her footsteps lighter than when she'd arrived. 2 down, 2 to go. The storm outside had arrived in full-force rain lashing against my childhood window. But inside, for the first time in years, honesty was beginning to clear the air. They cornered me in the library like a coordinated ambush. Nathan blocked the door while Ashley positioned herself by the window, cutting off escape routes. Their faces wore identical expressions of righteous indignation mixed with desperation. We need to talk. Nathan's banker voice was in full effect, without interruption. I closed the photo album I'd been browsing. Pictures of happier times before success became our family's golden calf. By all means, accuse away. Don't be glib, Ashley snapped. You've been manipulating us for years, playing puppet master while we suffered. Suffered. I stood matching their aggressive energy in your Range Rover in your Manhattan penthouse. What suffering exactly are we discussing? You know what she means, Nathan interjected. The stress, the pressure, watching everything we built crumble while you sat on millions. Everything you built on lies and other people's money. At least we tried. Ashley's composure cracked. We put ourselves out there, took risks. You hid behind false poverty like a coward. I lived authentically while you lived above your means. There's a difference. Authentically? Nathan laughed harshly. Teaching finger painting while owning patents worth hundreds of millions. That's authentic. More authentic than pushing toxic investments to pension funds or performing unnecessary surgeries to fund your shopping addiction. Ashley stepped forward, finger pointed like a weapon. How dare you judge us? You don't understand the pressure. Medical school loans, malpractice insurance, the expectations. I understand you netted $2.3 million last year. Where did it go, Ashley? Her face flushed. That's none of your business. Hermès, Louboutin, that $60,000 watch you bought to compete with Richard's new wife, the apartment in Miami you never visit, the... Stop, her voice broke. Just stop. But I was done stopping. Nathan, should we discuss the Cayman Islands account, the one you thought was hidden? $3 million in client funds you borrowed to cover your cocaine debts. Nathan went white. That's impossible. No one knows. Your admin knows. She's the one who's been fixing your mistakes for 5 years. I pay her a separate salary to keep you from getting arrested. You pay my assistant. I pay half your staff. The ones actually running your department while you're too high to function. Did you really think you closed the Pemberton deal? Sarah did that while you were in a bathroom stall? They both stared at me, the full scope of their delusion crashing down. But the worst part, I continued, is how you treated Mom and Dad, taking their money, letting them mortgage everything, watching them drown while demanding more life preservers for yourselves. We didn't know they were struggling, Ashley protested weakly, because you never asked. Too busy with your own problems to notice Mom's pills or Dad's desperation. Too self-absorbed to see past your own reflection. Nathan found his voice. So you decided to play God secretly funding our lives. That's sick, Serena. Why, what's sick is billing clients for hours you spent unconscious. What's sick is Ashley operating on patients while calculating her commission. What's sick is taking your parents' last dollar while wearing designer suits. We're not perfect, Ashley admitted, but we're family. You should have told us. When at Thanksgiving 2 years ago, when you spent 20 minutes mocking my apartment at Christmas when Nathan suggested I was wasting my Yale degree, at Mom's birthday when you explicitly said I was an embarrassment to the Morrison name, they couldn't meet my eyes. You want to know the truth? I started buying your debts to protect Mom and Dad, but I kept buying them as evidence. Proof of who you really are beneath the success theater. Evidence for what? Nathan demanded. I pulled out my phone, connecting it to the library's speaker system. Their voices filled the room, recorded conversations, phone calls, every cruel comment, dismissive laugh, and mockery they directed at me over the years. Serena still shops at Target. Can you imagine? I saw her on the bus yesterday. Honestly, it's embarrassing. Maybe if she'd studied something useful instead of social work? Some people just aren't meant for success. Stop! Ashley covered her ears. Turn it off. But I let it play. 5 years of casual cruelty. Hundreds of small cuts that would have bled anyone dry. When it finally ended, silence hung heavy between us. I recorded these to remind myself why I kept my success secret. Every time I considered telling you, I'd listen and remember who you become around money. Nathan sank into a leather chair. We sound like monsters. No, you sound like people who measure worth in dollars, who forgot that success without compassion is just greed with better PR. What do you want from us? Ashley's fight had drained away. An apology, groveling. I want you to hear yourselves, to understand that your financial problems aren't your real problems. They're symptoms. Of what? Nathan asked quietly. Of believing that visible success matters more than invisible integrity, of choosing appearance over authenticity, of sacrificing family on the altar of status. I opened my laptop, showing them documents they needed to see. The family trust I created, $100 million. It could solve every financial problem, erase every debt, fund every dream. But Ashley knew there was more. But it requires change. Real change. Nathan, you need rehab, not the weekend kind, the kind that actually works. Ashley, you need therapy to understand why you can't stop spending, why you need external validation so desperately. And if we refuse, then I'll continue protecting mom and dad, but you're on your own. Face your creditors. Deal with your consequences. Learn what life feels like without a secret safety net. They exchanged glances. Siblings who'd competed their whole lives suddenly united in desperation. The trust, Nathan said slowly. What exactly are the conditions? 6 months of verified treatment, financial counseling, community service at my center, and monthly family therapy where we actually talk instead of performing success. That's humiliating, Ashley muttered. That's healing, but I understand if you prefer bankruptcy and lawsuits. Thunder crashed outside, rattling the windows. The storm had reached its peak rain, pounding against glass like accusation. I need help. Nathan's admission came out strangled. The cocaine, I can't stop. It's every day now. Sometimes at work, I'm going to lose everything. Ashley reached for his hand. The shopping, the surgeries, it's never enough. I operate to afford things I don't need to impress people I don't like. I'm exhausted. Then choose differently, I said simply. The trust will cover treatment, cover debts, give you a clean start, but only if you do the work. Why, Ashley looked at me with genuine confusion after everything we've done, said, Why would you help us? Because you're my family, and because I believe the Ashley who wanted to heal people and the Nathan who loved numbers more than money still exist, buried under years of bad choices, but not dead. Nathan wiped his eyes. When you recorded those conversations, did you ever record anything kind? We said, No, I admitted. There wasn't anything to record. That truth hit harder than all the accusations. They saw themselves clearly for the first time, not successful professionals, not enviable siblings, just two people who'd lost themselves chasing an image of success that was destroying them from the inside. We'll do it, Ashley said finally. The treatment, the therapy, everything. Even the community service. Even that. Nathan attempted a smile. Maybe I'll learn why you chose those kids over corner offices. Maybe you'll learn they're not mutually exclusive. That real success includes both. I stood to leave, but Ashley stopped me. Serena, I'm sorry, not just for tonight, for years of everything. I know, I said, but save the apologies for therapy. You'll need them there. As I left the library, I heard them talking, really talking, not about investments or surgeries or status, about fear and addiction and the possibility of change. The storm outside was passing, leaving clean air in its wake. Inside, my family was finally beginning the same process. Robert found me in his study, his former sanctuary, now stripped of its valuable artwork and rare books. Empty spaces on the walls told the story of a man selling his life piece by piece. He closed the door with shaking hands, checking the hallway twice before turning to face me. You know, not a question, a statement of defeat, about everything. Sit down, Dad. You look ready to collapse. He fell into his desk chair, the leather creaking under the weight of his shame. Gone was the commanding businessman who'd built an empire. In his place sat a broken man whose kingdom had become a house of cards. It started small. He began without prompting. Office pools, fantasy football, harmless fun with the guys. Then someone mentioned a poker game. High stakes, but I could afford it. I was Robert Morrison. When did harmless become harmful? 2 years ago, maybe 3. Time blurs when you're chasing losses. He opened his desk drawer, pulling out a flask. His hands trembled as he poured amber liquid into a crystal glass. I lost 50,000 in one night. Told myself I'd win it back. Classic gambler's fallacy. But you didn't stop. I doubled down. Sports betting apps on my phone, online poker, casino trips disguised as business meetings. The wins. God, Serena, the wins felt like cocaine. Better than any deal I'd ever closed. And the losses felt like death, so I'd bet more to resurrect that winning feeling. He drained the glass. First, I used our savings, then retirement accounts, then borrowed against the business. Mom doesn't know about the business loans. His laugh was hollow. Your mother thinks Morrison Industries is thriving. She doesn't know I sold it 8 months ago. What's left is just paper, a shell game to keep up appearances. Who bought it? That's the thing. He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I don't know, some offshore company. They let me keep my office, my title, even a small salary, but I'm an employee in my own company, a figurehead. I kept my expression neutral. Tell me about the dangerous money. Robert's face went gray. I was desperate. The banks cut me off. Credit cards maxed. I needed one big win to fix everything, so I went to people who don't report to credit bureaus. The Kozlov brothers. He jerked like I'd slapped him. You know their names. I know they wanted to break your legs last month, make an example of the rich American who thought he could play with their money. They gave me 90 days, said they'd start with my fingers. He held up his hands, studying them like foreign objects. Piano-playing fingers, they said. Be ashamed to smash them one by one. How much do you owe them? 3 million, with their interest rates probably 4 by now. And you were going to ask me for it, tonight, after you saw the watch. He nodded miserably. I'm not proud, but when I realized my daughter had that kind of money, a father shouldn't think that way, but desperate men do desperate things. What about your other children? Why not ask Nathan or Ashley? With what Nathan's cocaine habit costs more than most people's mortgages. Ashley spends everything before she earns it. They're as broke as I am. Broker, actually. At least I had something to sell. I stood walking to the window overlooking the backyard where he'd taught me to ride a bike, where we'd played catch before business consumed him. The Kozlov brothers won't be a problem. What do you mean? I met with them 3 weeks ago, bought your debt. They were surprisingly reasonable once I spoke their language. Their language? Money. Plus, I brought Dmitri, my head of security, former Spetsnaz. He and the Kozlovs had a lovely chat in Russian about the inadvisability of threatening my family. Robert stared at me. You have security? Someone worth $400 million would be foolish not to. Dmitri and his team are discreet. You've probably seen them around the neighborhood and never noticed. You bought my gambling debts? He processed this slowly. So, I owe you $4 million. You owe me nothing. The debt's forgiven, but your gambling isn't. I can stop. I've done it before. No, Dad. You've paused before. There's a difference. I turned from the window. There's a facility in Arizona, specializes in gambling addiction among executives. 6 months minimum. Real treatment, not the spa rehab places that let you keep your phone. 6 months, I can't be gone that long. The business? What business? The one you sold, the office you pretend to run, that business. He deflated. Your mother is going to her own treatment for anxiety medication dependency. You can heal together or destroy each other separately. Your choice. When did we become these people? his question aimed at the universe. Addicts, liars, failures. When you confused having money with being valuable, when success became your religion and wealth your god. Gods always demand sacrifice. Yours demanded everything. Robert poured another drink, then stopped. He stared at the glass before putting it down. The company you mentioned, the one that bought Morrison Industries. Phoenix Holdings, one of mine. His head snapped up. You bought my company. I bought the debt first. The acquisition was just cleanup. Couldn't let it go to competitors who'd have dismantled everything you built. So you own everything. The building, the patents, the client contracts. Even this house, technically, though I've kept that quiet. My daughter owns my life's work. He said it wonderingly. The one I called a disappointment, the failure. She owns everything. I preserve everything. There's a difference. Morrison Industries can thrive again under proper management. Your legacy doesn't have to die with your addiction. Why would you do that after how I treated you, the disapproval, the constant comparisons to your siblings, the shame I never bothered to hide? Because addicts aren't their addiction. You're sick dad, not evil, and because somewhere under the gambling and desperation is the man who taught me integrity, who said that a person's word was their bond, who built a company on handshakes and honor. That man's been gone a long time. Then find him again, in Arizona, with professionals who understand executive addiction, with peers who've lost empires to dice and cards. He stood slowly aging a decade in the process. Your siblings, do they know? They know you're in trouble, not the extent. That's your story to tell when you're ready. The family meeting earlier, when you revealed everyone's secrets, you protected me. You're still my father. Disappointment doesn't erase love, it just complicates it. Robert moved around the desk, approaching cautiously. Would you... He stopped, unable to form the request. I opened my arms. He fell into them, sobbing like the broken man he was. I held him while he shook this titan of industry, reduced to his essential humanity. No wealth to armor him, no success to shield him. Just a man who'd gambled away everything, chasing the feeling of being a winner. It's okay, Dad, I whispered. You lost everything, but that means you can start over. Build something real this time. I'm scared, he admitted against my shoulder. Terrified, without the gambling, without the action. I don't know who I am. Then it's time to find out. And Dad, the man who emerges from treatment, he'll be worth more than any fortune you lost. I promise. He pulled back, wiping his eyes. Day after tomorrow, I'll drive you myself. Together, your mother and I. Together. Maybe you'll remember why you fell in love before money complicated everything. Robert straightened his shoulders. For a moment, I glimpsed the man he might become. Humble, honest, human. Serena, your watch, the Patek Philippe, you didn't buy it to impress anyone, did you? No, I bought it to remind myself that time is the only real currency, and I'd wasted too much of mine trying to earn your approval. He flinched at the truth. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry for all of it. You save the apologies for therapy, Dad. You'll need them there. For now, just commit to healing. I commit, he said formally. On whatever honor I have left, I commit to getting well. Outside, the storm had passed. Stars appeared between breaking clouds and the air smelled clean and new. Inside, my father faced his own clearing, the gamble of recovery against the certainty of destruction. For the first time in years, he was ready to play the odds that actually mattered. I called them all back to the dining room at 10 o'clock. The dinner remnants had been cleared, leaving only water glasses and the weight of exposed truths. They filed in like defendants approaching judgment. Nathan and Ashley sat together, their sibling rivalry replaced by shared vulnerability. Derek chose a corner chair, his usual commanding position abandoned. My parents entered last, Martha, gripping Robert's arm as if he might flee. Only Evelyn looked comfortable, sipping her tea with the satisfaction of someone watching a long-awaited finale. No more secrets, I began, standing at the head of the table. Everyone knows their own truth. Time to share with the family. Do we have to? Derek's question lacked his usual authority. Healing requires witnesses. Otherwise, you're just switching from public lies to private ones. Robert cleared his throat. I'll start. I'm a gambling addict, have been for 3 years. I've lost everything. The business, our savings, our security. I owe millions to dangerous people. His voice cracked. Serena bought my debts to keep them from collecting with violence. Martha's hand found his. I'm addicted to prescription medication, anxiety pills, sleeping pills, pills to numb the fear of losing everything. I've been hiding it for 2 years. Cocaine, Nathan stated simply. Daily use. Sometimes hourly. I've stolen client funds to pay for it. Without Serena's intervention, I'd be facing prison. Ashley's confession came harder. Shopping addiction masked as success. Unnecessary surgeries to fund unnecessary purchases. 3 malpractice suits that nearly ended my career. All settled with money I didn't have. Derek looked at his hands. I built my company on lies. Fake users, false revenue, fictional projections. Classic fraud. I owe $8 million to people who break bones for late payments. The confessions hung in the air like smoke from a burnt offering. Truth, finally, after years of performance. Now, I continued, let me share what you don't know. Every cruel word spoken about me over the years. Every mockery of my choices. Every dismissal of my worth. I documented it all. I played select recordings, not to wound but to illustrate. Their voices filled the room, casual cruelty preserved in digital amber. The family listened to themselves as strangers might, horrified by their own callousness. When it ended, Ashley was crying. We're horrible people. No, you're people who bought into a horrible value system, who believed net worth equals self-worth, who forgot that family means more than finance. You must hate us, Martha whispered. Hate requires passion. What I felt was sadness, watching people I love destroy themselves, chasing an image of success that doesn't exist. Evelyn finally spoke. Tell them about the test, dear. All eyes turned to my grandmother. What test? Robert asked. The test I've been running for 5 years, I explained. When I first made real money, Grandma Evelyn warned me. She said wealth reveals character, it doesn't create it. So we designed an experiment. Nathan looked between us. Evelyn smiled. Who do you think taught Serena about stealth wealth? I've been comfortable for decades. Never flashy, but comfortable. I wanted to see what my family would do with someone they perceived as unsuccessful. You've been testing us. Derek's indignation flared briefly. Life tests you. I just graded the results, and you all failed spectacularly. That's cruel, Ashley protested. Is it crueler than mocking someone for riding the bus? Crueler than calling someone a disappointment for choosing service over status? Crueler than excluding someone from family events because they might embarrass you? None of them could answer. Here's what I learned. I continued. Given the choice between kindness and cruelty, you chose cruelty. Given the option of inclusion or exclusion, you chose exclusion. Given the chance to love unconditionally, you placed conditions based on bank balances. We didn't mean, Martha started. Yes, you did. Every word was meant, every slight calculated. You weren't accidentally cruel. You were intentionally dismissive of someone you saw as lesser. "Ooh, so what now?" Robert asked. "You've exposed us, humiliated us, shown us our failures. What's the point?" I pulled up the trust documents on my laptop, displaying them on the wall screen. $100 million, structured to provide for everyone. Pay debts, fund treatment, ensure comfortable lives, but... There's always a but, Derek muttered. But it requires acknowledgement, not just of addiction or debt. Acknowledgement of who you became when you thought no one important was watching. You were important, Ashley said quietly. We just didn't see it. Exactly. You assigned importance based on visible success. So let me show you something. I opened another folder. Photos filled the screen. Maria at her MIT graduation, James with his art exhibition, Kiesha at NASA. Dozens of kids whose lives had transformed. These are my successes, invisible to you because they didn't come with luxury cars or designer labels. But each of these children will change the world in ways your McMansions never could. They're beautiful, Martha said softly. The children, their smiles. They smiled because someone saw their worth when the world dismissed them, the same way you dismissed me. Evelyn stood, moving to my side. I'm 93 years old. I've watched this family for 7 decades. The greatest tragedy wasn't your failures. It was your inability to recognize actual success when it sat at your table. What do you mean? Nathan asked. Evelyn pulled out a folder she'd hidden beneath her shawl. My will, originally divided equally among children and grandchildren. As of last month, everything goes to Serena. $50 million. The room erupted, not in anger but in shock. Mother, you can't, Robert gasped. I can and I have, because Serena's the only one who valued me as a grandmother, not a potential inheritance. She visited because she enjoyed my company, helped because she cared, never once asked about my finances. We didn't know you had finances, Derek said weakly. Because you never asked about my life. Too busy talking about yourselves to wonder how a widow maintained a house in this neighborhood. Too self-absorbed to notice my clothes were designer just understated. Too focused on flash to recognize quiet wealth. I touched my grandmother's hand. I don't need your money. Which is why you deserve it. But more importantly, you'll use it to create more Mariahs and Jameses and Keishas. Your cousins would create more debt and designer handbags. The family sat in stunned silence, processing the dimensions of their miscalculations. So here we are, I said finally. Everyone exposed, everyone humbled. The question is what comes next. You tell us, Robert said quietly. You hold all the cards, our debts, our secrets, our futures. Oh, wrong. You hold your futures. I'm just offering tools. Treatment for addiction, counseling for behaviors, financial education for sustainability. But you have to choose change. What if we can't? Ashley's voice was small. What if we're too broken? Then you'll discover what I learned teaching kids everyone else gave up on. Broken crayons still color. Cracked foundations can be repaired, but only if you stop pretending perfection while living destruction. Nathan looked around the table. We have to do this together, all of us, or we'll just fall back into old patterns. Agreed, Martha said firmly. Family therapy, individual treatment, whatever it takes. Even if it means starting over, Derek asked. Especially if it means starting over, Robert answered. I'm 68 years old and I've never been more lost. Maybe it's time to be found. One by one they agreed. Not quickly or easily, but genuinely. The family that had bonded over mockery would now bond over recovery. The success they'd chased had led to failure. Perhaps failure would lead to success. There's one condition I haven't mentioned, I said. Community service. Real service, not charity galas or tax-deductible donations, actual hands-on work with people you'd normally ignore. At your center, Ashley asked. Wherever you're needed, but yes, you'll start at my center. Meet the kids you mocked me for teaching. Learn what success looks like without designer labels. When do we start? Nathan asked. Monday, 8 a.m. Wear clothes you can get dirty. Leave your egos at home. The meeting ended with exhausted acceptance. They filed out slowly, each carrying the weight of truth and the possibility of transformation. Only Evelyn remained, her hand warm on my shoulder. Well done, my dear. The hardest part is over. Is it? I felt drained. Exposure is easier than change. True, but they've admitted who they are. That's the first step toward becoming who they could be. I looked at the empty chairs where my family had sat. The same chairs where they'd mocked me hours ago. Everything had changed. Nothing had changed. Tomorrow would tell which version proved true. Grandma, the money. I really don't need it. I know, but those children do. Promise me you'll use it for them. I promise. She kissed my forehead. Your parents named you Serena, hoping for a serene child. Instead, they got a revolutionary. Sometimes the universe knows better than parents. As she left, I sat alone in the dining room where my family's facade had finally crumbled. The work ahead would be harder than any success they'd chased or any fortune I'd built. Building humans was infinitely more complex than building bank accounts. But for the first time in years, it felt possible. Evelyn intercepted me on the back porch where I'd retreated for air. The family meeting had left me drained, and I needed space from the emotional wreckage inside. She moved with surprising grace for 93, carrying 2 cups of chamomile tea. Thought you might need this. She settled beside me on the swing, the chains creaking gently. Quite a performance tonight. It wasn't a performance. Everything's a performance, dear. The question is whether we're performing our truth or our illusions. She sipped her tea thoughtfully. Tonight you performed truth. They performed shock. Both authentic in their way. When did you know, I asked, about my success? Her eyes twinkled. The day you bought your first patent. You asked me about offshore accounts over tea. Remember, very casual. Too casual. I knew you were planning something significant. You never said anything. Why would I? Watching you build an empire while they built houses of cards was fascinating, better than any television drama. That's cold, Grandma. That's honest. I'm too old for anything else. She adjusted her shawl against the cool air. Besides, I had my own test running. What test? The inheritance test. For 40 years, your family has circled me like vultures, calculating my worth, estimating their shares. Derek actually asked about my life insurance at Christmas. He didn't. He did. Couched it in concern about my final arrangements. But I'm not senile. I knew what he wanted. She chuckled. Your mother inventories my jewelry every visit. Nathan questions my investment strategies. Ashley suggests I need full-time care, hoping to control my finances. I had no idea. Because you never participated, never calculated, never saw me as a walking bank account waiting to die. That's morbid. That's family, or what family becomes when money matters more than memories. She set down her teacup. Do you know why I really taught you about stealth wealth? To protect me from becoming like them. Partially, but mainly because I saw myself in you, another woman who understood that true wealth whispers while poverty screams. You were poor. Dirt poor. Raised 6 siblings after our parents died. Cleaned houses for rich families who treated me like furniture. Married your grandfather thinking love conquered all. It didn't. Empty stomachs don't care about romance. But Grandpa built the shipping company. After 20 years of failure, 20 years of me working 3 jobs while he chased dreams. When success finally came, I'd learned its true price. Relationships sacrificed, children neglected, health ignored, everything abandoned for the altar of more. Is that why you stayed quiet about your wealth? I stayed quiet to see who loved Evelyn versus who loved Evelyn's assets. You were the only one who passed. I didn't know there was a test. The best tests are invisible, like yours tonight. She patted my hand. Though I must say recording their cruelty for 5 years shows remarkable patience. Or masochism. Shows strategic masochism. You needed evidence they couldn't deny. Otherwise, tonight becomes their word against yours. Now they can't rewrite history. We rocked in silence, processing the evening's revelations. Inside, I could hear muffled conversations. My family struggling with their new reality. They'll resist, Evelyn observed. Change is harder than confession. Expect setbacks, relapses, resentment. I know. You've planned for their financial recovery. Have you planned for their emotional rebellion? When Derek realizes his junior position is real, when Ashley can't shop away her feelings, when your parents face withdrawal, I'll manage. No, dear, they'll manage, or they won't. Your job was exposure and opportunity. Their job is transformation. Don't confuse the two. You think I'm trying to save them. I think you're trying to parent your parents, sibling your siblings, cousin your cousin, classic overachiever taking responsibility for everyone's growth. Someone has to. No, someone has to offer the chance. They have to take it. She stood steadier than her age suggested. Let me tell you what I told your grandfather when he finally found success. Money amplifies who you are. If you're generous, wealth makes you philanthropic. If you're selfish, wealth makes you miserly. Your family has shown you exactly who they are with money. Now you'll see who they are without it. Yidabazan ends. The trust is a safety net, not a solution. They'll still have to jump, still have to trust the net, still have to rebuild from wherever they land. What if they don't jump? Then you'll know you offered eagles the chance to fly, but they preferred being peacocks, pretty to look at, but ultimately grounded by their own display. She moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing, the $50 million I'm leaving you. Grandma, I told you I don't need it. Not for you, for them. When I die, they'll contest the will, claim undue influence, mental incompetence, whatever keeps hope alive. They'll need expensive lawyers to fight you. You expect me to fund their lawsuit against me? I expect you to offer. What they do with that offer will tell you if tonight changed anything or if they just learned to perform new lines. That's twisted. That's family, twisted by definition. The question is whether they'll straighten out or spiral tighter. She left me alone with cooling tea and heavy thoughts. Inside, my family continued their discussions, planning futures based on truths instead of facades. But Evelyn was right. Confession wasn't change. It was just the first page of a story that could still end badly. I thought about her revelation, poverty to wealth, the journey she'd hidden while her family counted her assets, the test none of them knew they were failing with every calculating glance. Smart woman, I said to the empty night, playing the long game. Tomorrow the real work would begin. Treatment centers, therapy sessions, community service, the humbling of the mighty Morrison family. But tonight at least masks had fallen, truths had emerged, and somewhere in the wreckage of who they'd pretended to be lay the possibility of who they might become. The stars above seemed especially bright, no longer hidden by storm clouds. I chose to take that as a sign, not of guaranteed success, but of cleared skies that finally allowed us to see what had always been there, waiting to guide us home. 3 months later, I stood before them in the community center's multipurpose room. They looked different, humbler. Derek's designer clothes replaced with jeans and a volunteer t-shirt. Ashley's perfect makeup abandoned for a fresh-faced authenticity. Nathan's banker's polish softened into something more human. My parents, returning from their respective treatments, seemed fragile but present in ways they hadn't been in years. Progress reports, I announced, pulling up files on my tablet. Let's start with successes. I'm 72 days clean, Nathan said quietly. Not easy, but clean. 65 days without shopping, Ashley added. I actually have money in savings. First time since medical school. I wrote code, Derek announced with genuine pride. Real functional code. My team says it's amateur, but improving. 45 days without a bet. Robert's voice remained steady. Not even a lottery ticket. Thus, 30 days medication-free. Martha touched Robert's hand. Anxiety's still there, but I'm learning to sit with it instead of numbing it. Excellent. And the community service, their faces shifted, something approaching wonder, replacing the forced compliance of early days. Maria, Nathan said simply, 12 years old, parents deported, living with an aunt who works 3 jobs, brilliant at math, Like scary brilliant. She solved calculus problems for fun. For fun, Serena. And I've been tutoring her 3 times a week. She reminds me why I loved numbers before they became about bonuses. Ashley jumped in. There's this boy Marcus, severe cleft palate. His mother cleans offices at night. Can't afford surgery. I've arranged for him to get the operation. Pro bono, my hospital fought me, but she smiled. I fought harder. The coding camp, Derek added. These kids from the shelter, they're learning faster than my Stanford interns ever did. Hungry for knowledge in ways that humble me. One girl, Tasha, built an app to help her grandmother remember medication schedules. She's 14. I watched my family discover what I'd known for years. That success measured in changed lives felt different than success measured in bank statements. Your observations are touching, but I need more than feelings. I need accountability. I pulled up a presentation on the screen, financial audits, behavioral assessments, progress metrics that stripped away sentiment to reveal facts. Nathan, you're still hiding expenses. Small amounts, but the pattern suggests you're one stressor away from relapse. His face flushed. How did you... Your assistant reports to me remember the ATM withdrawals, the deleted browser history, the anxiety when drug dogs walked past the center. You're maintaining sobriety through white-knuckle willpower, not actual recovery. I'm trying. Try harder or try differently. Maria needs a tutor who's healing, not just performing sobriety. I moved to the next slide. Ashley, you returned the Hermes bag but kept the receipt. Checking return policies isn't recovery. It's bargaining with your addiction. One bag plus 17 items in your online shopping carts. Abandoned but not forgotten. You're transferring addiction from physical stores to digital ones. Different venue, same disease. Derek shifted uncomfortably as I reached his assessment. Your code works, but you're still taking credit for other people's debugging. Old habits in new languages. Plus, you've been inflating your contribution percentages in team reports. Those are estimates. Those are lies. Smaller lies than before, but lies nonetheless. Tasha doesn't need another adult who trades truth for perception. My parents face their own reckoning. Dad, you've been watching sports. Not betting, but watching. Feeding the neural pathways that connect competition to gambling. Mom, you're substituting wine for pills. Different substance, same escape. This is impossible, Ashley protested. You're demanding perfection. I'm demanding progress. Real progress. Not performance art for my benefit. I clicked to the next slide. Their faces paled. Every cruel comment you made about me over 5 years. Transcribed, categorized, analyzed for patterns. The screen filled with data. Want to know the most common theme? Disappointment that I wasn't monetizing my Yale degree? 347 variations on that theme alone. Why are you showing us this again? Martha asked weakly. Because you're doing it again. Different target. You made 12 comments last week about wasting your talents on these kids. You see your service as sacrifice instead of privilege. That fundamental worldview hasn't changed. We're trying, Robert said. God knows we're trying. I know, which is why I'm presenting phase 2. New slides appeared. The trust structure evolved. More complex, but more comprehensive. $25 million released immediately for debt relief and ongoing treatment. $25 million in matching funds. For every dollar you earn ethically, the trust matches it, but only verified ethical income. Define ethical, Derek challenged. Transparent, legal, beneficial to others beyond yourself. Nathan, that means no predatory investments. Ashley, no unnecessary procedures. Derek, no inflated valuations. And the remaining $50 million, Nathan asked. Distributed based on impact metrics, not your impact on portfolios or P&L statements, your impact on human lives, measurable, verified, sustained impact. You're turning us into social workers, Ashley complained. I'm turning you into humans who happen to work. There's a difference. For how long? Derek asked. How long do we perform for your approval? Forever. The word hung heavy. They looked at me with varying degrees of resentment and resignation. You think this is a punishment, I observed. It's not. It's reality. Millions of people work every day without lying, cheating, or sacrificing others for gain. They're called decent. I'm asking you to join their ranks. And if we refuse? Nathan's question lacked heat. Genuine curiosity rather than rebellion. I pulled up final documents. Then, you're free to leave. Right now. No strings. I'll pay off existing debts, ensure you're not in physical danger, and walk away. You can return to your old patterns without my interference. But Ashley sensed the catch. But no safety net. No secret angel covering your mistakes. No trust fund waiting. You succeed or fail on your own terms. And when you fail because addicts without support always fail, you face those consequences alone. That's cruel, Martha said. That's choice. Stay and submit to structure that ensures growth. Leave and embrace freedom that enables destruction. Either way, you're choosing. They exchanged glances. Family members who'd competed for decades suddenly united by shared dependence. I need to ask something, Robert said slowly, the recording of our comments, playing them repeatedly, making us relive our cruelty. What's the purpose beyond pain? Memory. I answered simply. Addicts forget. Pain fades, shame dissipates, but recordings remain. When you're tempted to return to old patterns, listen to who you were. Remember why change matters. You want us to torture ourselves. I want you to remember that your words had weight, that cruelty leaves scars, that the sister you dismissed heard every dismissal and chose to love you anyway. Silence settled over the room. In the hallway, children's laughter echoed. The kids they'd been serving, the futures they'd been shaping while reshaping their own. I'm staying, Nathan said finally. Maria, she needs consistency. I won't be another adult who abandons her. Staying, Ashley agreed. Marcus's surgery is next month. I want to see his smile. Staying, Derek muttered. Tasha's teaching me more than I'm teaching her. Seems wrong to stop that education. My parents nodded their agreement. Not enthusiastic, not grateful, but committed to a process they finally understood was about more than money. Good, I said. Then let's discuss phase 3. The part where you stop seeing this as my program and start seeing it as your life. The part where service becomes identity, where integrity becomes instinct, where you stop performing recovery and start living it. The meeting continued for another hour. Details hammered out, schedules confirmed, metrics established, but the real victory had already occurred. They'd chosen structure over chaos, accountability over abandonment, progress over perfection. As they filed out to return to their service positions, I heard Ashley tell Nathan about a new patient. Derek explaining code to Nathan with genuine enthusiasm. My parents discussing their therapy homework with unprecedented honesty. They were becoming slowly and painfully the family they'd always pretended to be. Not perfect, not healed, but heading in directions that led somewhere better than where they'd been. And that I knew was the only success that truly mattered. 3 months later, I arrived at Morrison Industries to find Nathan in the conference room surrounded by financial documents, not the complex derivatives he once pushed, but simple investment portfolios designed for the community center families. Morning, he said without looking up. Maria's aunt needs a college savings plan, 15 years to save on a housekeeper's salary. I'm modeling options that could actually work. I studied my brother, his expensive suit replaced with khakis and a button-down. The manic energy that once fueled cocaine-driven all-nighters now channeled into sustainable purpose. Show me what you have. He walked me through scenarios with the patience of someone who'd learned that quick profits usually meant someone else's quick losses. The old Nathan would have dismissed such small accounts as worthless. This Nathan treated each dollar like it carried a family's dreams. There's something else, he said, pulling up a presentation. I have been analyzing the center's finances. You're hemorrhaging money on administrative costs. I could streamline operations, save maybe 30% annually. The center runs fine. The center runs. It could run better. He showed me inefficiencies I'd ignored, too focused on programs to notice back office bloat. Let me help. Real help, not the condescending garbage I used to offer. Before I could respond, Ashley appeared in the doorway. Family meeting in the break room, Derek called it. We found Derek standing nervously beside a projection screen, our parents already seated. Gone was his TED Talk confidence, replaced with something more genuine. I've been lying, he started without preamble. Not big lies, not fraud-level lies, but lies nonetheless. Taking credit, inflating contributions, old habits. We know, Ashley said gently. We've all been slipping. That's the thing. You don't know, because I've gotten better at hiding it. He clicked to his first slide. Every lie I've told in 3 months. Documented, self-reported to Serena before you could catch them. The list was extensive. Small deceptions that would have grown without intervention. I'm not proud of this, Derek continued, but I'm proud of recognizing it, of stopping the spiral before it became an avalanche. Why tell us? Robert asked. Because recovery requires witnesses, and because I need your help staying honest. Martha stood, surprising everyone. Then I should confess, too. I've been drinking, not heavily, but consistently. A glass becomes two becomes a bottle. Classic substitution. Mom, Ashley started. Let me finish. I called my sponsor each time, didn't hide it, but didn't share with family either. Thought I could manage alone. I can't. One by one, they shared their struggles. Nathan's daily battle against cravings. Ashley's credit card she kept for emergencies that always seemed to arise near department stores. Robert's fantasy football league he joined just for fun, without money involved. We're all fighting, Nathan observed. Question is together or alone? Together, Derek said firmly, which is why I proposed something to Serena, a family business. Not the old model where we compete and lie. Something new. He clicked to his next slide. Morrison Family Foundation, combining our skills for community benefit. Nathan's financial expertise. Ashley's medical knowledge, my technical abilities. Mom and Dad's business experience, Serena's vision and resources. You've thought this through, I said. Tasha helped. Said we were like the Avengers if the Avengers were recovering addicts with trust funds. His smile was self-deprecating. She's not wrong. Ashley leaned forward. The medical clinic I've been planning. Free services for center families. This could fund it. The financial literacy program, Nathan added. We could expand it citywide. Tech training for at-risk youth, Derek continued. Real skills, real opportunities. They built on each other's ideas with an enthusiasm I'd never seen when they discussed profit margins. My parents offered operational insight without condescension. Siblings who'd competed now collaborated. There's one condition, I said when their planning peaked. Full transparency. Every decision public. Every dollar tracked. Every outcome measured. Radical transparency. Derek agreed. Our redemption requires witnesses too. I have something to add. Robert stood slowly. Morrison Industries, the company Serena saved. I want to donate my shares to the foundation. Full divestment from the business I corrupted. Dad, that's millions, Nathan protested. Millions I gambled away once. Rather see them serve others than tempt me again. Martha took his hand. The jewelry, the real pieces Serena bought back. They should be sold. Foundation seed money. Our bonuses, Ashley added, looking at Nathan and Derek. Whatever we earn goes to the foundation for 5 years. Live on salaries, invest the rest in impact. I watched my family architect their own accountability. No longer my program, but theirs. No longer performed change, but chosen transformation. Evelyn would be proud, I said finally. Present tense, Martha corrected. She's still with us. Moved to the assisted living facility last month, insisted on downsizing. She said she wanted to practice living simply before dying simply. Robert smiled. Gave away everything except photos and her tea set. Happiest I've seen her in decades. My phone buzzed. A message from the Nobel Committee about my nomination moving forward. I ignored it. This moment mattered more than any prize. So we're doing this, Nathan asked. Morrison Family Foundation. Our penance and purpose combined? Our choice, Ashley corrected. Not penance. Choice. They spent the next hour planning with the detail once reserved for schemes and scams, but something had shifted. The plan served others, not themselves. The enthusiasm was for impact, not income. As the meeting ended, Derek pulled me aside. The recordings of our cruelty, I listened to them again last night. Why? To remember who I was, who I never want to be again, he paused. Do you still listen to them? No, I see who you're becoming. That matters more than who you were. We're going to fail sometimes, slip, fall, disappoint you again. Probably, but you'll fail forward instead of backward. That's all anyone can ask. He nodded, then surprised me with a hug, brief but genuine. Thank you for not giving up on us, for seeing potential we couldn't see ourselves. Everyone deserves a second chance. This is like our 5th chance. Then everyone deserves as many chances as it takes, as long as they keep choosing better. The office emptied as they returned to their service work. I stood in the conference room where my father once commanded an empire built on borrowed time. Now it would serve an empire built on borrowed faith. Faith that people could change, that families could heal, that success meant more than numbers on a screen. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Maria. Mr. Nathan showed me compound interest today. My money can grow. Thank you for sharing him with us. I smiled, pocketing the phone. Let the Nobel Committee wait. This message mattered more. A child seeing possibility because my broken brother chose to share his unbroken knowledge. That was transformation. Not the grand gesture, but the daily choice. Not the perfect recovery, but the persistent try. Not the family I'd wanted, but the family I'd gotten, finally becoming the family they could be. The work would continue tomorrow, and the day after, and all the days following, but today they'd chosen correctly, and that was enough. 6 months later, I stood in the gardens behind the community center, watching volunteers hang lights between the trees. Simple decorations for a simple wedding. James straightened his tie nervously, his teacher's salary evident in the off-the-rack suit he wore with pride. Still time to run, he joked, taking my hand. Marry someone less complicated. Someone whose family doesn't require spreadsheets to track their recovery. 8 years too late for that warning, I kissed him gently. Besides, you love spreadsheets. I love you. The spreadsheets are just bonus entertainment. Ashley approached with her clipboard wedding coordinator by choice rather than necessity. The caterer's here. Local restaurant you saved from bankruptcy last year. They're refusing payment. Let them gift it. Receiving matters as much as giving. She made a note, then hesitated. Serena about the speech. Whatever you've planned is perfect. It's Derek giving it, actually. He insisted, said he owed you the biggest apology, so he should give the biggest thanks. I smiled. 6 months ago, Derek would have demanded the spotlight. Now he'd earned it through humility rather than arrogance. Guest list is interesting, Ashley continued. 3 billionaires next to formerly homeless families, CEOs beside single mothers, Nobel Committee members chatting with kids from the center. Money doesn't determine seating arrangements. Connection does. Nathan appeared carrying his daughter on his shoulders. 3 months old, adopted from a teenage mother at the center who'd chosen them despite their struggles. Sophie needs her aunt, he said, transferring the giggling baby to my arms. Fair warning, Derek's speech might make everyone cry. He practiced on us last night, even Dad teared up. Sober tears are good tears, I said, bouncing Sophie gently. The afternoon dissolved into controlled chaos. Martha directing flowers with newfound joy, Robert helping James's father with his wheelchair, my family serving others naturally without performance or calculation. The ceremony itself was brief. Vows exchanged beside the basketball court where I'd taught thousands of kids that worth wasn't measured in possessions. James, who'd stood by me through every revelation and reversal, promised continued partnership in all endeavors. I promised to stop secretly paying his student loans, which made everyone laugh. Then Derek took the microphone. 6 months ago, I was a fraud. Successful fraud, but fraud nonetheless. His voice carried across the gathering. I mocked Serena for choosing meaning over money, called her a failure for prioritizing purpose over profit, suggested she'd wasted her education, her potential, her life. He paused, composing himself. I was the waste. Wasted opportunities to learn from her example. Wasted years chasing hollow victories. Wasted relationships sacrificed for meaningless metrics. Then she saved me, not just financially, though she did that too, but spiritually, by forcing me to see that success without service is just selfishness with better PR. Tears flowed freely among the guests. Even hardened CEOs dabbed their eyes as Derek continued. Serena taught us that invisible impact matters more than visible income, that changing lives beats changing portfolios, that the bus she rode carried her to more important destinations than our luxury cars ever could. He raised his glass of sparkling cider. To my cousin, who showed us that true wealth means making others wealthy, that real success is measured in transformed souls, not transferred funds. That family isn't about blood or bonds, but about choosing to lift each other up instead of tear each other down. To Serena and James, may your marriage be everything our family's success wasn't honest, humble, and focused on what actually matters. The applause was thunderous. I hugged Derek, feeling his genuine emotion. No performance, no calculation, just truth delivered with hard-won wisdom. Ashley surprised everyone next taking the microphone. I wasn't supposed to speak, but watching Derek be honest made me need to be. She turned to me. I performed surgeries for money while you performed miracles for meaning. I bought things while you bought futures for forgotten kids. I accumulated stuff while you accumulated souls who will change the world. You asked me once why I needed so much. The answer was because I had so little. Little purpose, little point, little understanding of what actually mattered. Then you forced us into service, and I met Marcus, the boy with the cleft palate, did his surgery 2 months ago, when he smiled for the first time without shame. She wiped tears. That moment was worth more than every designer bag I ever bought. Last week, his mother brought me tamales, homemade, said I'd given her son a future. I cried over tamales, Serena. Do you understand? I finally felt what you felt all along. The weight of real worth. Nathan took his turn without prompting. Quick story. Maria, my math student, got into MIT, full scholarship. She asked if I'd be at her graduation. Not her parents who were deported. Not her overwhelmed aunt. Me, the recovering addict who taught her calculus between cravings. I matter to someone, not for my deals or degrees, but for showing up, consistently, soberly. That's the fortune Serena gave us, the chance to matter for the right reasons. My parents stood together, Martha speaking for both. We spent 40 years building a facade, beautiful outside, rotting inside. We sacrificed everything real for everything that looked real, nearly lost ourselves completely. Serena saved us, not from bankruptcy, though she did that, from becoming the empty shells we were becoming. She forced us to see that we'd raised successful children who were failing at life, that we'd become successful adults who'd failed at living. Today we're grateful, not for the money she spent saving us, for the love she showed despite our cruelty, for seeing people worth saving when we couldn't see it ourselves. James whispered in my ear, "Did you plan this?" They planned it. I just gave them space to become who they always could have been. "But sir, my turn," he said, standing. 8 years ago, I met Serena at the community center. I was a new teacher, idealistic but ignorant. She was already changing lives while her family mocked her methods. I watched her choose impact over income every day, watched her family dismiss her dedication, watched her smile through their cruelty while secretly saving them from themselves. Some people see her generosity as wealth distributed. I see it as love multiplied. She didn't just save her family financially, she saved their souls, and in doing so, showed me what real love looks like. It looks like patience when people deserve abandonment, like hope when evidence suggests despair, like believing in someone's better angels even when they're showing their worst demons. He turned to face the crowd. She's being nominated for a Nobel Prize in economics, but her real prize is in this garden. Lives changed, families healed, futures made possible. That's economics that actually matters. The announcement rippled through the crowd. I hadn't told anyone except James about the nomination. "Stand up," someone called out. "Show us the woman who proved wealth isn't worth anything if it doesn't make us worthy." I stood reluctantly, but Sophie in my arms smiled so brightly that reluctance became joy. My family surrounded me. Not the broken, bitter people from a year ago, but humans choosing to heal, choosing to serve, choosing to measure success by standards that actually mattered. One more announcement. I said, since everyone was looking anyway, "James and I are pregnant. Sophie's gonna have a cousin." The celebration exploded. My mother cried fresh tears. Robert hugged James like the son he'd never properly appreciated. Nathan started calculating college funds while Ashley began planning prenatal care. Derek raised his glass again. "To the next generation. May they learn from our mistakes. May they understand from birth what we learned almost too late. That success means nothing if it doesn't include significance. That wealth means nothing if it doesn't improve the world. That family means everything when it's built on truth instead of treasure." As the reception continued, I found myself on the same bench where I'd once eaten lunch alone, ostracized by family, too focused on fortune to see what really mattered. Now that bench overflowed with people who'd learned the same lesson: connection beats currency every time. The Patek Philippe on my wrist caught the setting sun. I unfastened it, walked to the silent auction table for the center, and placed it among the donated items. $2 million that would build more futures for kids like Maria. "Your watch," Martha gasped. "The one that started everything." "It served its purpose. Time for it to serve others." She studied me. "You were never attached to it, were you? To any of the wealth?" "Wealth was just the tool. Love was always the goal. The watch, the money, the success. They were just mechanisms to create this moment, this family, this future." "We have so far to go," she said quietly. "So much to make up for." "Then it's good we have time, real time, not borrowed against tomorrow, but invested in today." The stars emerged as the reception continued. My complicated, healing, extraordinary family danced beneath lights strung by volunteers. Children from the center played with CEOs. Billionaires served food alongside formerly homeless individuals. The artificial barriers that divided people dissolved in the democracy of celebration. I stood with James, our hands intertwined, watching the impossible unfold. My family, once dedicated to destroying each other through competition, now devoted to building something together. Not perfect, still struggling, but choosing correctly more often than not. "No regrets?" James asked, about revealing everything, forcing their hands. "No regrets. Pain was necessary for progress, truth essential for transformation." They needed to fall completely to rise authentically. Derek approached with Sophie sleeping in his arms. She's tired, like her uncle who spent all day making sure this wedding was perfect for the woman who saved his life. You saved your own life. I just provided options. You provided proof that we were worth saving. There's a difference. He transferred Sophie carefully. Thank you for believing in better versions of us when we couldn't see them ourselves. As he walked away, James pulled me closer, ready for our next adventure. With you always, even if it includes your family's ongoing drama. Especially then, perfect families tell boring stories. Ours will have plot twists for generations. We laughed, surrounded by the beautiful chaos of lives intersecting across economic divides. The community center where I'd invested my heart had become the stage for my family's resurrection. The fortune I'd built in secret had funded their public transformation. And tomorrow, we'd continue the work, building lives instead of portfolios, creating futures instead of facades, proving daily that success without service is just selfishness with a spotlight. But tonight we celebrated. The girl who rode the bus had taken her whole family on a journey to somewhere better, and the destination, it turned out, mattered far less than who we became along the way. 1 year later, Thanksgiving arrived again. The same dining room, the same table, but nothing else remained unchanged. I stood in the kitchen with Martha preparing dishes side by side. No criticism colored her comments. No pills hid behind the flour. Just a mother and daughter cooking together, sharing recipes and recovery stories. Derek's running late, she said, checking her phone. Board meeting for the foundation ran long. They're approving the new shelter project. Nathan texted. He and Jennifer are bringing Sophie and her new brother, Traffic from the city. Jennifer, Nathan's wife, was a social worker he'd met at the center. Someone who loved him for his service, not his salary. Their son, born 2 months ago, carried my grandfather's name and my grandmother's spirit. Ashley's here, Robert announced from the doorway, parking the minivan. The minivan that replaced her Range Rover, purchased to transport patients to free clinics. She entered carrying homemade pies, her husband, Paul, helping with diaper bags for their twins. Serena. She hugged me carefully, mindful of my 8-month pregnancy. How's my nephew treating you? Like his father, gentle but persistent. James appeared taking the pies, also constantly hungry. We'd sold my condo and his apartment, buying a modest house near the center. 4 bedrooms for the family we were building. A yard for the garden where former students could always find welcome. Derek arrived as we settled around the table. His enthusiasm filled the room. The board approved everything. New shelter, expanded clinic, tech lab. We're helping 300 families next year. With transparent finances, Nathan added, pulling out his phone. Want to see the real-time dashboard, every dollar tracked, every outcome measured. Complete accountability. After dinner, Jennifer suggested gently, family first, foundation second. We joined hands for grace. Robert spoke with the humility of 15 months sobriety. Thank you for second chances, for family that chose forgiveness over abandonment, for the reminder that losing everything material led to gaining everything that matters. Amen. Amen, and we echoed. The meal progressed with easy conversation. No performances, no competition, just family sharing their lives without calculating their worth. Maria started her sophomore year at MIT, Nathan mentioned. Straight A's. She's talking about graduate school already. Marcus joined the debate team, Ashley added. His confidence since the surgery, he's unstoppable. Wants to be a lawyer, specifically a medical rights advocate. Tasha sold her app, Derek announced. $50,000. She's putting it all toward her siblings' education. 15 years old and already changing lives. These were our success stories now. Not deals closed or surgeries sold, but futures made possible. Speaking of changing lives, Martha said, standing, I have an announcement. I've decided to use Evelyn's inheritance differently than planned. We all turned to her. Grandma Evelyn had passed 6 months ago peaceful in her sleep. Her $50 million estate had transferred to me as promised, despite no legal challenges from the family. Mom, I prompted. I've been thinking about waste. How I wasted decades chasing empty status. How our family wasted potential on meaningless competition. I don't want Evelyn's money wasted on us. What are you proposing? Full donation, every penny to the foundation. Let it serve thousands instead of enabling a few. She looked at each of us. We have enough, more than enough. We have each other, our health, our purpose. Adding millions to our accounts won't add meaning to our lives. I agree, Robert said immediately. Money nearly destroyed us. Better to let it build others. One by one, they voiced agreement. Even Derek, who 18 months ago would have schemed for every dollar, nodded enthusiastically. Then it's decided, I said. Evelyn's legacy becomes the Morrison Family Foundation's endowment, perpetual funding for the perpetual impact. She'd like that, Ashley reflected. Grandma always said quiet money spoke loudest. After dinner, we gathered in the living room, the same space where my father had recognized my watch, where secrets had exploded like grenades. Now it hosted laughter and genuine connection. Present time, Derek announced, pulling out a wrapped box, for the woman who gave us everything by taking everything away. Inside was a simple frame holding a bus pass, not just any pass but mine from 2 years ago, worn and faded from daily use. You threw it away when you bought your car, Derek explained. I kept it, to remember who you were when we mocked you, who you chose to be when you could have chosen differently. It's perfect, I said, tears flowing freely. Nathan presented his gift, next a leather journal. For your Nobel acceptance speech. Whether you win or not, you've already changed economic theory, proving that wealth redistribution works best when it redistributes opportunity, not just money. Ashley handed me a photo album, pictures from the center over the years. Kids I'd taught, families I'd helped, lives transformed through patient investment. Your real portfolio, she said simply. My parents gave me a certificate. What's this? Now, naming rights for the new elementary school, Martha explained, built where the old Morrison Industries factory stood. We thought Serena Morrison Academy for Creative Learning had a nice ring. You demolished the factory. Demolished the monument to greed, Robert corrected. Build something that creates instead of consumes. Something that would make you proud. I looked around the room at my transformed family. The cruel mockers had become compassionate servants. The success addicts had become significance seekers. The family that bonded over belittlement now united in upliftment. Want to know something funny? I asked. That Thanksgiving, when you all mocked me, I almost didn't come. Almost stayed home, avoided the criticism. But James convinced me that family deserved another chance. Thank God for James, Ashley said fervently. Thank God for chances, Nathan corrected, and for someone willing to extend them even when we didn't deserve them. Derek cleared his throat. Actually, I need to confess something. That speech I gave at your wedding, I left something out. We waited while he gathered courage. The night you revealed everything, after I begged for your help. I went home planning to disappear. Take what money I could access and run. Let you all think I'd been kidnapped or killed. Classic Derek avoiding consequences through dramatic exit. What stopped you? Martha asked gently. I realized Serena would search for me, would probably find me, would forgive me again, and I couldn't bear adding that to my list of failures. Couldn't stand being saved one more time by someone I'd tried so hard to diminish. So I stayed. Faced the humiliation, did the work, and discovered something. Being humbled hurts less than being hollow. Having less money but more meaning actually equaled having more life. That's beautiful, Jennifer said, wiping tears. That's growth, I corrected, the kind that compounds better than any investment. James stood raising his water glass, a toast to the Morrison family, who proved that falling apart can lead to coming together. who demonstrated that losing everything material can mean gaining everything meaningful, who showed that success isn't about what you accumulate, but about who you become. To Serena, Derek countered, who saw diamonds in our rough, who invested in our potential when we were all liability, who taught us that true wealth whispers while false worth screams. We toasted glasses clinking with genuine celebration. Outside, November, wind rattled windows. Inside, warmth that had nothing to do with temperature filled every corner. "Tell us about the baby," Ashley prompted. "What are you hoping for?" "Healthy," James answered. "Everything else is negotiable." "Compassionate," I added. "Someone who sees worth in everyone, who chooses service over selfishness, who understands that privilege means responsibility to lift others." "So nothing like we were?" Nathan said wryly. "Everything like you are now," I countered. "People capable of change, of growth, of choosing love over lucre." Martha reached for my hand. "I used to pray you'd become successful, measured success by our standards. Thank God my prayers weren't answered." "They were answered," Robert corrected, "just differently than requested. We asked for a daughter who'd make us proud through wealth. We got a daughter who made us proud through worth." The evening continued with stories and laughter. No one mentioned stock prices or real estate values. Instead, they discussed the families they were helping, the lives they were changing, the meaning they were finding in previously meaningless days. As guests prepared to leave, each family member stopped to hug me. Real embraces, not the performative air kisses of previous years. Each whispered thanks. For patience. For tough love. For believing in better versions of themselves. Same time next year?" Derek asked at the door. "Wouldn't miss it," I confirmed. "Even though we're all taking the bus now," he grinned. "Carbon-neutral transportation for the win." After everyone left, James and I stood in the quiet house. The dining table that had hosted so much drama now simply held empty plates and full hearts. "Any regrets?" he asked, rubbing my pregnant belly. "None. Every cruel word led to this kind night. Every mockery made space for this meaning. Every loss created room for these gains." "Think they'll stay on track?" "They'll wobble. Recovery isn't linear, but they'll keep choosing correctly more often than not. And that's all any of us can do." We turned off the lights, leaving only the glow from the kitchen where tomorrow's meals would be prepared. The house settled into peaceful silence. No more secrets. No more schemes. Just a family that had learned the hardest lesson of all: what you're worth has nothing to do with what you own. I touched my wrist where the Patek Philippe once sat. Now only smooth skin remained. Time no longer needed a $2 million reminder. Every moment proved precious when spent building lives instead of bank accounts. "Come on," James said, leading me to bed. "You're sleeping for 2, and tomorrow Mariah's coming by to show you her research project." On sustainable water purification, I smiled, following in her mentor's footsteps. "Your footsteps led somewhere good," he said, "even when your family couldn't see the destination." As I drifted toward sleep, I thought about journeys, how the bus I'd ridden had carried me further than their luxury cars, how choosing purpose over profit had profited everyone, how the family that had called me broke had been broken themselves, and how breaking sometimes preceded breakthrough. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Recovery required daily choice. Significance demanded constant effort, but tonight gratitude filled every space that greed once occupied. The Morrison family had come full circle, from mockery to meaning, from cruelty to kindness, from measuring worth in dollars to measuring it in difference made. And at the center of it all, a simple truth: success without service is just selfishness with a smile. But service without fanfare, that's success that echoes through generations. "Thank you," I whispered to the universe that had taught us all the hardest lesson. "Thank you for showing us that the best investments pay dividends in transformed lives, that real wealth accumulates in hearts changed, not accounts charged, That family fortune means nothing compared to fortunate family. The baby kicked as if agreeing. The next generation already understanding what had taken us so long to learn. You can't take it with you, but what you give away, that lives forever. Comment below. Have you ever felt judged by family for choosing meaning over money? How did you handle their criticism? If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe for more narratives about families who learn that connection beats currency every time. Share this with someone who needs reminding that their worth isn't measured in their wallet, but in their impact on others. Thank you for joining Serena's journey. May you find the courage to live authentically, regardless of others' opinions. Remember, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Choose purpose. Choose peace. Choose people over profit always.